Hello and welcome to a special presentation from In the Money Media. Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you from the Little House on the East Side in a show where we are going to talk about the Mar Handicapping Challenge happening this weekend. It's on-site only, so if you're in California, you can go to the dmtc.com website and get all the details or reach out to Chris Barr. It's going to be fun talking about these 2 days of racing. This is one of the big ones in the summer and well worth checking out. And one of the men playing in this contest who's had success with it in the past, he's a horse owner, he's a gambler, he's a guy I had the great pleasure of spending some time with out there for opening weekend at Del Mar. First time guest on the In the Money airwaves. He is Ciaran Thornton. Ciaran, how are you?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me on, Peter.
Let's get a little bit about your background. You can probably tell by your accent that you're not of this land. But I'm curious to know how you got involved in racing in the first place and what got you excited about tournament play.
Well, like most of us, my father got me into horse racing way back. And, growing up in Ireland, our weekends was always, traveling around the country, going to whatever track was ongoing over in Ireland, Leopardstown, the Curragh, traveling a little small Laytown races on the beach and stuff like that. And then, I used to run my dad's bets to the bookie office, during summer break. So I got a crash course in betting way early.
Summer working at the movie theater, summer camp, you're running bets. I love it.
Yep.
And what about contests? When did they come into the play for you?
About 5 or 6 years ago. I of course watched the TV show and it got me a little bit interested in it. And then I started seeing the contests down at Del Mar. I think the very first one I played in was one of the Little Red Feather charity tournaments.
Sure,
at
that's
Del Mar.
Coming up as well. Glad
it was
you
one of my first forays into the contest world, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's fun being able to see your name on the leaderboard, and also from a game selection point of view, you're competing against other humans, and
Yes.
and that's super appealing in a day and age where tote betting has never been harder. So there's a lot of advantages to it, and I know you've had some successes. I've seen your name up at the top of leaderboards on multiple occasions. What would you call your career highlight in contests so far?
It was actually this contest 2 years ago. I came in second, lost by $117. As they say, you always remember your losers and not the wins. And it was actually a late bet I did. And when I did the bet, I was like, I have a feeling this is actually going to cost me the win. It was a $150 trifecta. I lost by 117. That was a knife.
Oh, that's not fun. That's not fun. But hey, second, it's a flat enough prize structure that's still a huge win in a big buy-in event like this one. And we appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts ahead of, what's sure to be a competitive couple of days. I'll ask it this way. Why are you not scared? Some people, I think, would be scared about talking about their tips ahead of a big contest. You made it very clear to me that you weren't going to hold anything back and you were happy to talk, just lay your cards on the table.
We're all in the same community and we'll all hang out together. And, when you're on a long shot in your race and you like a horse, sometimes you're not going to listen to anyone else's opinions. We usually make fun of each other. One of us is always right, but most of us are probably going to stick to our guns. And, in the live money tournaments, I might give out a horse today that's 15-1 when I'm looking at it. And that horse might look fantastic in the paddock and it's 2-1. And I'm going to go, yeah, it's not worth my while doing this. Even though I liked it, I might go off to a secondary one. That's the thing with these live money contests. You have to be able to bob and weave, the scratches, the horse may get agitated in the paddock. You just never know. You got to be ready to, you go in with a map and a plan, but you got to be ready to deviate pretty quickly especially if you've got to catch someone who's gone on a hot streak.
My old broadcast partner, Matt Bernier, used to say you need plan A, B, and C all the way down to Z because of how things change. And the other thing with betting and handicapping, and we've had countless examples of this over the years, of people can have the same information, even down to similar opinions, and the specifics of how they bet can be so different that one can win and one can lose. So you're not giving away, it's not like, you're giving away the store to come on here. I'm glad you mentioned the LRF charity contest. I will put in a plug for that because that's one that you can play online through the charity partner TVG. I've got a direct link to that page for anybody interested. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/LRF. You have been an LRF partner, Little Red Feather, now for a few years. You've got your big horse running on Sunday. We'll get there. But I loved the example you gave me off air before we came on, and the reason you wanted to talk about this very first race on Saturday. I thought it was a great example of how being an owner can get you just more tuned in to the betting side and the game in general. So tell the story again of why you wanted to talk about this first race at Del Mar on Saturday.
Well, I've been playing contests for a while, and I think becoming an owner has tuned me in more. I think my performance has skyrocketed since I got into that side, only because, it's not like I'm getting inside information. I understand why owners and trainers race horses in certain races, and, why horses are there and what the plan is. So when I'm looking at a card, I kind of see that sometimes. And, many times it'll help me actually find a really nice price doing that. But the first race, we actually, some people might be aware, Phil D'Amato, he trains almost all of my horses and a lot of Little Red Feather's horses. He's chasing the Kentucky Derby. Stronghold was his horse last year. And, we bought into a horse that we hope is going to be really, really good on the trail. Races next weekend, Arrakis. And that horse actually trains with one of the horses in race 1 tomorrow, Thought Process. And both are highly regarded, good workouts. Mike Smith's riding, people might look at that and go, well, the usual jockey's not riding Phil's horses. But, when you look at it that, maybe Phil's having an eye out towards, the Derby next year, putting Mike Smith on is not a crazy thing. Highly regarded. It's usually a race I would skip, although I was joking with you too. I'm a degenerate. I can't really skip races, even though I try. I'm actually going to burn one of my bullets in this race, one of my $400 bets. As you know, in this contest, they kind of force you to do minimum bets on both days, so you can't just sit out. And for this one, you have to do four $400 bets. And I'm actually going to shoot one of my bullets here in the first race tomorrow. Hopefully I can get a good price. I might change, the fact that the horse might look good in the paddock tomorrow. Maybe it's a favorite and not the 6 or 8 to 1 morning line we think we're going to get.
So Thought Process, this 2-year-old filly, the 6th runner in the first race by Collected. Phil D'Amato certainly needs no introduction. I think you might get a bettable price just because it feels like, listening to Workout Buzz and just sort of knowing how the SoCal crowd likes to bet. Bob Baffert, that Usha, his Tis the Law filly in there is going to catch all manner of money. So, yeah, you might get a whiff of value about this runner who's worked very well. That Losal work 2 back, the 5 in less than a minute for her. Looks very, very live. Where should we head next on this Saturday Del Mar card?
I figure we would focus on the late pick 4 because, many times in the contest, everyone, if you're looking at the leaderboards, a lot of people end up saving their bullets till later in the day. And the early part of the card is a lot of, short fields. So I'm thinking we head to race, what is it? Race 8 starts the late pick.
San Diego, grade 2 action, going 1 mile and a 16th. There's just 5 in here, but these are horses that you're going to be familiar with if you pay attention to racing on the regular. I suppose the biggest story is the return to the races of Arabian Night. Hasn't been seen since the Breeders' Cup Classic, where he caught all manner of money and just couldn't quite see out the trip, ultimately finishing 4th to White Abario. He makes his return to the races. Ciaran, are you with or against Arabian Night in this spot?
He's a monster, but it's off the bench. And, Baffert either wins with these monsters off the bench or gets beaten. It's one of those things that, and, for me, I can't bet long shots. Even if I'm looking at doing a double into the next race, there was actually a horse in here. This is a race, they've raced it 40 times. And I'm one of those guys, I like to look at stats. There's certain kinds of races end up bringing a lot of chaos. And this race, half of the time, a price over 5 to 1 has won over history. And Baffert's had many a horse in this race over the years, and not every one of them have won. So, I'm looking for a price in here. And sometimes I'll actually go with a name, and I actually like Newgrange off the bench. And part of the reason is it's the name. I grew up right next to Newgrange in Ireland. So and we were just there last month during the summer. So off the bench, don't mind, Phil, knowing Phil, people worry that horses are off the bench. This horse had a little bit of issues. I think they had throat surgery, but he targets races. And I know from, when we play Skull Phoenix, when he sets out a roadmap, he's pretty dead on when he places these horses. So I think that's a great price. And then I actually really like the 2. You know, if there's going to be chaos in this race, Tiago, I mean, it's 1-2 in a row. The price is right for the contest. And I'm thinking when we get to this race, I'm going to be looking at what the will pays are paying. You know, maybe I'll not use this, but, you know, going in, I think the price could be good on both of these, especially when everyone's going to overbet Arabian.
You will be the 2 biggest prices on the board. I would almost be sure, just because Dr. Venkman has to take money, Express Train has to take money, and of course, Arabian Night, unless something is off with him, will be odds on in this spot. So I like that idea, trying to take a little bit of advantage of the chaos. Were you indicating that the double might be the pool? You know, at those prices, you could certainly bet to win, but, you know, doubles are available in the Del Mar Handicapping Challenge, and you have a big, wide open turf allowance race in the next. You might be able to get a little bit more value potentially if you have an opinion in race number 9. How do you project to approach it, and what do you think of this 9th?
Well, I know I'm absolutely going to be doing doubles. Like you said, I'm going to be no wins. It's going to be doubles for me. And then, you know, I like some big prices in the next race. So I might even do a smaller, you know, $25 or $50 bet with Arabian Night into some of my other long shots. I hate when I pick a long shot in a race and I nail it, and then I don't, you know, get the money in the next. The favorite wins or the favorite wins in the race before. So I like a little bit of the insurance bet. And, you know, many times if I'm looking at it, you know, it's a 2-day contest. Just getting my $400 back and using a bullet means a lot. And a lot of people, you know, I know some guys that will go into the race and you'll see, wow, he used 2 bullets and he's only got like $10 more in his bankroll. That's because he probably did, you know, a $400 show on Arabian Night or something like that, just so he can get out of the race and
bankroll preservation. Bankroll preservation is underrated in contests. Frankly, I think it's underrated by horse players, generally speaking. You know, people don't come up with enough of a plan, whether it's throughout a day at the races or a meet like Saratoga or Del Mar. You know, money saved, whether it's by not making certain bets, which can be hard if, like you and me, you're a bit on the DG side, but at least to be able to get money back in certain situations. You know, they're not the smartest bets. I'm going to go out on the limb here and say they're not the smartest bets we make, but they can sometimes pay dividends, especially within the ecosystem of the contest. So give us the scoop. Who do you like in race number 9?
In race number 9, I really, really like the number 7. One last out in April. Drops today, bullet work. And this is a contest play. A lot of people are going to look at it. Why would you look at this? But I mean, I'm looking at the form when this horse was racing last year. And if we go down there, second, one last, second by a neck, win by a nose, fourth by a neck. For me, that's a perfect kind of horse for an exotic bet, you know. And maybe, you know, we'll see the upset and this horse will actually win and my double is going to pay a whole lot of money. But at a minimum, you know, I might key it up in a exacta, a trifecta, but I know that this horse has proven to be always around the line, so I think I'm going to get a good price on that one.
Yeah, I hear your logic for sure there with that ex-French trainee, the 7 runner in this spot. Absolutely makes sense. French Stakes form is going to probably look pretty good in California. Who are the ones you like to go with him?
I like Hot Rocket, Irish import. One of the things I know after getting into a number of Irish imports, when they actually work really fast out here, some horses just really love the beach and they tend to outperform. And this horse looks like he might be one who likes it out here at Del Mar. I mean, we got a 59-second workout at the beach. So, you know, I know many times when we're looking to bring the horses over, it's because they want that harder and firmer ground here. Sure. So, I mean, the horse seems to be liking it out here in the heat, you know, versus the rain back home in Ireland.
Not just a hunch play, you going for the Irish spread. Here's a point. I'm just curious to get your take on it as someone who's done so much racing over there. I made this point on another show that we did this weekend. And it's not like this horse burned up the turf at Leopardstown or anything, but I do find that horses generally who will happily get around Leopardstown will go well in the USA. Possibly it's a much wider left-handed bend, but the fact that it's left-handed, the fact that it's usually decent ground, and the class of the racing are all things I think can often point to a horse that will do well here. Do you think there's any merit to that theory, or am I grasping at straws?
Absolutely. I mean, I used to have an angle where if a horse was coming over from England or Ireland, I automatically made it an A. Didn't matter, just the class. And what many people don't realize, the jockeys, I could be a jockey in Ireland. I see some of these jockeys, they're like, when you look at the weight, that weight is legit. They are racing 128 pounds, 135 pounds. And then the courses, they're not all flat like they are here. They're up and down mountains and stuff almost, like big curves and hills and whatnot. So, they can get around there and they come out here and like, oh, the ground's nice and flat. Yeah. So, yes, it makes a big difference.
Any others to use in here, or will you focus your action 7-6?
There's actually a lot. Like when I'm coming in here, I might be doing some doubles. I mean, I like all the prices in here just because this is a race. A third of the time, the winners are over 5-1. So I went there looking at, I like Giovanni. Eye on Rye ships in for Hawthorne. How good? I don't know, but might be one I might throw on a trifecta underneath, for the third spot when I'm building those tickets.
Yep.
And then Halfway Line, the other Phil, third off, import from France. Classic Phil move. He went down the hill last time, and now he's routing. And I know we've done that with some of the horses he has for us, where he sends them down the hill first and then routes next. It's not like he's trying to throw away a race, but he's getting the speed into them, seeing how they're going the next out route. So that's a classic Phil move, and it's one I'd definitely be looking at too.
I think I got your horses mixed up at first. I thought you were originally talking about the 7. You were talking about the 2 in the first order as your top pick, D'Amato's Ottoman Prince, who will be a bigger price, I would think, than
I meant Zoe Joe, the number 8. Sorry, I wrote the numbers down wrong.
Oh, okay. So it was Zoe Joe, Zio Joe. You also wanted in the mix. This is the first time gelding. So all right. So if I'm going to give, I send around to our In the Money Plus subscribers little digests of the picks from all the shows. Anybody who wants to check that out, doesn't want to take notes themselves, can get the In the Money Plus picks, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. If you were to grade the horses we've talked about in this race specifically into A's and B's, how would you do it?
Well, I always like my long shots, so I always make them A.
Yeah.
I think Faustine is, looks great, but turf to dirt to turf, I don't like when I see Baffert moving all over the place. The horse might win. I mean, that's a logical A. But I mean, if I was building a ticket, 7 or 8, 6, 5, I'd probably have them as B's on my ticket for sure.
Okay. So if I were to, and then 11 and 12.
Giovanni, what is it? Number 11, yes.
Yeah, Gio is the 11, right?
Yes.
So we'll have that one. We'll have that one in the mix as well. Spready, but with a lot of long shots, mainly trying to beat, strategically speaking, trying to beat the favorite there in race number 9. Let's move on to the grade 1 action of the Bing Crosby Stakes. JK and I have a video elsewhere on the YouTube channel if folks want to check that out to get our in-depth analysis. But Ciaran, how are you going to be approaching this one?
I'm going for prices like I always do. But when I'm doing my pick 4s and pick 5s, not in the contest, I will always use these favorites unless I really think they're, a bad favorite and I try to beat. In the contest, I'm not looking at favorites at all. Maybe even on trifectas, I might put them in second and third. I'm looking for that, big score so that I can jump, because that in these contests, if you played them enough, the small little wins, sometimes you got to get a big score and you've got to make a big stand in a couple of races. What's crazy is actually it's the Baffert horse in here.
The one on the outside, the third-time starter, Jackstown, the 9.
Yes. Unbeaten. I really don't believe this morning line. I'm going to hope that we get this 15-1 morning line. My projection, I think this is going to be a 5 or 8-1 horse. I mean, I know what they're going on, but when I was going through this, I had to look again. I was like, am I looking at the right number? I don't think the morning line should have been 15-1 here, which is great. I'm going to love if it is 15-1. I get why he might have made that, but I think
probably right. You're probably right. It'll be more like 8 or 10 because of Baffert. But if it was another trainer with these figures and form, it would be a 15-1 shot. But I do think the crowd will gravitate to this one.
And plus, JJ's riding great. Even when you got I do it myself too. You jump on the hot jockey. So I mean, he's riding great so far here at Del Mar. And sometimes when JJ and Baffert have a lot of races, it's the ones you don't think are the ones they actually end up winning, especially at Del Mar.
It's a hot combo for sure. Would you be looking to stand alone or have any others you wanted to throw?
I mean, if I was forced to single in the race, and I was just playing in the pick 4 by myself, I probably would have singled the chosen run. I mean, 10 of 11, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we don't need to go over why the horse is just, dominating. But even putting a win bet on that or trifecta on top, I'm not going to get a whole lot of money in the contest to move forward. And, this late in the day, I'm going to be hoping to kind of build on a double to close the day out on a win streak with some money to bet the next day.
Makes perfect sense. Shall we move on to the 11th? This maiden special weight for fillies 3 and up, or any other thoughts on the grade 1 action?
That's pretty, straight no chaser had some good works. It's a my racehorse race. I'm sure if that horse wins, there'll be 900 people down in the paddock or in the winner's circle. So
they even put Little Red Feather to shame.
Yes.
Actually, before we get to the 11th, I want to go back to something you said before that I thought was a really interesting way of looking at the world that I know you do. When you talk about a race and how often a price horse wins that race as opposed to a favorite, what is your research based on to come up with that information?
Well, I love using Brisnet. They give us all these stats, and I'm a avid user of RaceLens as well. So I just like looking at stats. People can talk away the stats, but if a certain kind of race has a tendency to hit on long shots, that's definitely a race I'm going to look at and see if I can beat the favorite. I'm not going to try and beat Flightline, if you know what I mean. If the favorite's that great and the race says, well, 90% of the time a long shot wins, but Flightline's in there, I'm going to throw the stats out. But it helps me narrow down if I'm picking a race that I want to go for long shots. It's, just another little tool to look at and go, there is a tendency for chaos to happen in this race. Yeah. And many times when you actually read, Frank Scittoni, our friend, he's an avid believer. A lot of horse players, I think, and I know a lot of gamblers, don't bother to read the conditions of the race and what the race is. The amount of information you can get sometimes from, what the description of the race is that a lot of people don't look at, they're overlooking where they could actually find prices sometimes. You might read something, non-winners are 2, and then you would look through and you go, well, this horse shouldn't be in here. He got DQ'd from, And then you go, so this horse is racing above the class in here. It's just those little things, little bit of edge that might help.
Absolutely. Can pay dividends. You mentioned RaceLens. It's a great research tool. Wasn't planning on giving them an ad, but I'm going to do it because they have some cool promos going on right now, including one where you can get an unlimited quarterly sub for just $99. So we're talking about a way to save $200.
Yep.
So go to equibase.com, promo code SUMMER99R will get you that. And if you're interested in an annual RaceLens sub, we've got a special deal with them where you also get a year of In the Money Plus at a huge discount. To learn more about that, inthemoneypodcast.com/RaceLens. I know that's a tool that you love and use as part of your handicapping mix. Do you use it more on the past performance side or more on the research side? I know you can do both with it.
I go back and forth. I use both. I flip around, I like getting information from a lot of different spots, but I'm old school. I still read the form. I don't have a computer program spitting out which horse I need to bet. I know there's not many of us old school race form gamblers left, but yeah, you'll never see me running a program telling me which horse.
That's great. Let's talk about this maiden race that closes out the Saturday, day 1 of the Del Mar Handicapping Summer Challenge. Boy, this one looks wide open on paper. Really curious what your approach is going to be.
This is a fantastic end of, day race here. These kinds of races usually always bring chaos. On this particular one, what is that? 56% of the time, a long shot wins. So that's definitely one, and I think it was 28% of the time the horse is over 10-1. So it's not just a 5 to 8-1 horse that wins this. Sometimes there's some big prices that come in, and I actually really like a big price in here. I would say I don't like the favorite. I think the 7-2 favorite, I just don't like.
She's had her chances, she's had her chances against all this unexposed form. We're talking about the 9. She's the law. She's supposed to get a good trip. She's supposed to be competitive, but I'm with you. This seems like a place where you might be able to get cute.
Yeah. I'm tossing out. My theory is if Dettori and Freshu could not win on this horse, what are the chances Cedillo's going to win? Yeah. And of course, now that I said that, he'll probably win.
You might have knocked the horse right. You might have knocked her right into the winner's circle. But hey, it's a short price. This is the kind of horse, especially for your contest purposes. In a race like this, I have zero problem opposing. Where are the Ciaran Bucks going to go?
I really like number 2, Baltic Fire. We're looking here. good last race speed. Back speed is good. It's got a closing kick. If you look at the race replays, the horse kind of fades a little late, and each of it's got a good kick, but fades late. And, I know from all our horses racing, certain horses sometimes wake up under a jockey. So we get a new jockey, KK, down from Woodbine. Maybe he'll be the difference maker today. And I think the price is, fantastic in this race for me with him.
Simon Callahan trains. Horse is going to be a big price, very well drawn, interesting item. You mentioned about the Santa Anita race, and that was a strange race flow. It seemed like it was slow, but the closers came, and it's a horse that might benefit from doing something different, stretching back out, but not, when the horse ran a mile and an eighth, I thought cut back. They cut back maybe too far. Now maybe the mile hits this horse right where she wants to be going. I like your case a lot. Looking at a pace map, might be able to sit in a nice positive position. Any others you want to mention to go with her in there?
I like Ashley. If you look at the last couple of races, Barrios has been riding. What are we doing here?
Yep.
And, the horse is always there, loses by 1 3/4, 1.5, always around the line. So that's another price when I'm doing trifectas I'm looking at, and if I'm doing a trifecta box with some of my bombers, this one might, have that light bulb race and win at a pretty good price as well. We got a Phil debut horse, Step It Out. Fresh who's riding, I believe, on this one. Garon Park, I was there last month. Beautiful, beautiful track. And, again, this might be another thing they come out here and really like, the turf out here. And, Phil targets these big race days. I know that, from dealing with him. So, when he wheels out a horse on a day like today, it's usually not a prep race. I mean, people like to think, but I think it might be the real deal here.
Yeah, some very interesting prices. The angle that I really like on the Forerunner that you mentioned is that horse, on form is super close with the favorite and is going to be 3 times the price as the favorite, and could improve third off the bench. Now, I don't bring this up to give you a hard time, and I don't know the answer for sure. But when I work with my Irish colleagues at Sky Sports Racing, they call it Goran Park. You said Gowran Park.
Everyone has their own way to say it. It depends which part of the country they're from.
That's amazing.
and how you're understanding the accent they have, because even
that might
some of the accents there when I grew up, I still can't understand them. And I lived there.
Let's talk about Sunday for a minute. We can skip ahead to your race that I know you're pumped about. But if you had any spot plays or anything you wanted to highlight earlier on the card, the floor is yours.
All right, let's see. Let me find that here. Race 5, Mamba on the 3. I think we're going to get a very good price on that one. Ships in from Gulfstream. They've got JJ, enticed to ride on this horse. And he was actually rode Give Me the Loot. So he hopped off the favorite in this race to ride this horse shipping in. And, people might go, well, maybe they booked it. The agents know exactly what they're doing. I mean, people don't understand sometimes, the job those guys do. They pick these horses and they pick for a reason, and they're shipping out here, ship and win bonus. It could be a really interesting price.
Yeah, I like that call very much. Any other races on the undercard to highlight?
Race 7. It's been raced 7 of 14 times. Long shots win it, but I really like the number 1. If you go back and watch the debut at Los Al there last month, very slow start. Horse acted very green. So that's definitely a race replay to go check out. Midway down that, 800-mile closing stretch there at Los Al, the horse was going all over the place and then finally settled down and started closing and then passed the wire, galloped out past the winner, and that was going 6.5. We go route today. I think that should be a very good price, especially in a race that's known for chaos. Yeah. So that's definitely going to be a horse I think should be interesting.
Love it. Should we get to the big one, the grade 2 Eddie Reed, which sees the return to the races of a favorite horse on the network. We've talked about with Billy many times on the airwaves. We call him GFP, Gold Flippin' Phoenix. It's a family show, Ciaran.
Yes.
Gold Flippin' Phoenix. You've had the pleasure of being involved with this one. What a ride it's been. Let me just ask the macro question first. How cool is it to be associated with a horse like this multiple graded stakes winner, especially here at Del Mar, trying to win this race for, what is it, the second year in a row?
Yep, second in a row. Oh, it's been fantastic. What's funny is this was the first horse I actually bought into. So I'm spoiled for life, and after that, I got hooked, we started adding on more, but that just a phenomenal. We've traveled, all over the place, Breeders' Cup, Kentucky Derby, so that's why I jumped in with Little Red Feather. I want to go to those big race days and have a horse that can actually compete at that level. And Gold Phoenix has not disappointed.
Do you have the hat? Billy has that awesome Gold Flippin' Phoenix hat.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I even had a specialty suit made that I'll be wearing on Sunday that's got the name in the back, not the PG version. I sent them a picture. We were at the Irish Derby, so I flipped it there, And
oh, that's great. That's just terrific. Who do you see as your main competition in the Eddie Read?
Well, what's crazy is I think we should be the favorite, but we won't. And I know they're going to make the Baffert du jour the favorite. And, won that race earlier this year, but the rain, we were supposed to, come off the bench. That was going to be the race that Gold Phoenix was going to come back. But all that rain just messed up the training schedule. We couldn't get there in time. So, a little bit of a delay there. Du jour won. Everyone thinks it's, the bee's knees. I think it's going to be Du jour's and Johann's. I love it because I'm going to get 9-2, hopefully, or more, and for a contest play. Yeah, that's fantastic for me. I mean, I almost won one of the contests up at Santa Anita. And this will tell you, you're like the chip in the chair story with Doyle. I think I had $50 left going into the last two races of the contest and hit a monster double on the hill into Gold Phoenix in the next race and almost won a contest. So, I mean, you're never out. And that was part of me planning to have money late in, planning everything out, making sure I had some money when I got there. You just never know when you hit on those right doubles. And I think, Gold's going to give me a very nice price, I hope, tomorrow. And the fact that we own it, I have to bet him to win, but I'm not betting any other way.
Right.
Top on everything. Doubles, ties, you name it.
I love it. DMTC.com, the place to go to find out more information about the Del Mar Handicapping Challenge. Any closing thought, Ciaran, a horse we didn't get to, or any other message for the viewers and listeners before we wrap this edition of the show? Or on the podcast side, the show is going to keep going with more great content, but the video portion will end after this.
Well, I would say if you've not jumped into the contests, absolutely jump in. They're fun, especially the live money ones. The Little Red Feather charity one is a really great one to get started on. You get a tax deduction for it, believe it or not. And, it's a small bankroll. It'll get you a little bit of a taste in that. Any other horses today? There's probably a couple of other, but.
You've got one in every race, don't you?
Yeah, always.
I think we hit the high notes. If something leaps to mind, feel free to say it. But otherwise, I'll just underline what you're saying about the LRF Cares contest. We're going to be talking about that a lot more over the next few weeks. Again, you can get to the registration page for that in themoneypodcast.com/LRF. You'll also find that information if you're navigating and if you're in the area and you're somebody who's going to be betting a significant amount of money on Saturday. You might as well do it through the context of the contest and have a chance to win all those extra prizes. Ciaran will be following you with great interest over there, and we'll see you on the leaderboard.
Thanks for having me on, Pete.